Welcome back to another episode of the Profitable Home Services Podcast. This is the podcast where we uncover hidden profit leaks and we help you build a business that's not just busy, but we want it to be profitable. I'm your host, Diane Gardner, and today we're going to dive into the cost of losing a key person and potentially mishiring because we all have been there. We've all experienced what's the cost when you hire somebody and they don't work out and they don't stick around. Huge costs. And I will tell you that there is no place on your P&L report that says cost of a mishire, cost of losing a good person. Those lines are not there. They're hidden. And so we have to go digging and find out what is the cost of that. So today I've brought back a guest that we've had previously, Rhamy Alejeal from People Processes. He is one of my go-to people when we start talking anything to do with HR. He is my person I go to with questions or if I want to run a scenario by him, and I'd highly recommend that you guys do the same thing. Rhamy is a source of knowledge and wealth of information out there. So now that I've buttered you up really good,
You're making me
Rhamy,
feel
welcome to the
great. Yeah.
show.
Thank you. I got to do this more often. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Diane.
Yeah, so Rhamy, I thought I would start with this topic because it's near and dear to my own heart. I lost a key employee a year ago. Um, well, a little over, almost a year and a half ago now. I lost that key employee, wasn't able to keep that person, and subsequently had two mishires trying to fulfill that position. So when we were on one of your calls and you were talking about the cost of this, I went, bingo, there's a potential podcast episode that we've not covered before. With all of our other profit leaks and stuff that we've explored, we haven't really dug down into what happens when you lose a manager. What happens when you lose a key employee? What happens when you lose your top technician or your top salesperson or those kinds of things? What happens when that happens? Because it's inevitable. It will happen at some point if it hasn't already. So I'll let
Yeah.
you give us a little
Well,
information.
I appreciate that. Well, I think the first kind of key concept to understand is that labor, we often look at from an accounting perspective as you mentioned, a cost. Some people put it in their actual COGS as a variable expense. Some do it as a standalone, and it's, a fixed cost of labor. But we look at the labor as this kind of dollar figure we have to spend to get our business running, right? It's just this cost. But even in that statement, you realize the key thing about labor, which is that you're spending the money to make return, to actually be able to deliver your product or service. So the cost of missed labor, of someone an unfilled position. Let's just call it that, right? You need a fourth person, but you don't have him. Every day that that person is missing has a cost, and the cost isn't the salary that you're not paying. The cost is the productivity, the revenue you're not being able to either service or generate.
And
So
I'm going to intercept you there. I would say not just the revenue, but the customer service side of things can
oh,
potentially be affected.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
there's so many downstream effects when you're understaffed. Let's just you have 13 people, everything's going great. One of them gets hit by a bus. Now you have 12. Okay. Your revenue didn't just drop by a 13th, though it may have if they were in a revenue producing organization. The amount of calls you can handle didn't drop by a 13th. Maybe it did if they're a technician who actually fills those things out. Something happened though, where the other 12 people are going to have to pick up the slack, which means overtime, misallocated labor, which means like a manager's doing that person's work. So you're paying manager dollars to have that person done. And whatever that manager was supposed to be doing isn't getting done. And what he was doing was worth more than what that role was doing because obviously you have them in that position for a reason. Or you're doing it, the business owner, the most highly valued worker in the organization. You're not going out and getting new business. You're not building partnerships, exploring new strategic opportunities. You're doing a technician's work, right? So when
Correct.
we
Yes.
miss productivity, when we have a hole in our labor, the cost isn't, gosh, that salary. The cost is this huge ramification in your productivity. And there's a lot of ways we as HR kind of examine that. I think the three most common metrics that I think that these metrics turn really well into profit and loss, P&L dollars. And so you listeners at home can utilize these. The simplest one, time to hire. Okay. So you have a 10-man shop, you and your 10 guys and gals. I'm in HR, forgive me. Um, go out there and y'all do 1.5 million a year. Okay. That's 150,000 in revenue per person. Diane can speak to the benchmarks on that. I'd say that's about average.
Pretty
Yeah,
average. Yep.
pretty average for a home services organization. You're making 150, you're probably paying them 70 of it, 60 of it, something like that. Hopefully, that's what's going on. So every one of those employees is, on average, responsible for $150,000. Now, that's the average. Some of your people ain't worth what you pay them.
That's
And
right.
some of your people are worth 400,000 and they're like the cornerstone of your business. And I have bad news. The ones who quit are the ones who are really good, right? Because they're the ones with the most options and they know they generate a lot. So a lot of times your turnover is not your average person, it's higher than average, but let's just say it's the average person, 150,000 bucks, okay? That $150,000, 1/10 of your business that that person represents is a daily cost. When that person's not there, you're not able to handle that much work. It's just a pure missing piece of your productivity. And so if you look at time to hire, a very basic metric, Jack walks out the door on Friday. How long until you have Jaquan replace him, right? That's called time to hire. Person gone till they start. And in a lot of service businesses, that number's 45 to 60 days. And that's actually not too bad.
That's
There are a
pretty
lot of,
fast,
yeah,
actually.
that's
Yes.
that's again your benchmark, and that includes people who have this stuff down to a science, and people who only way they hire is by waiting for one of their kids to grow up. Um, I've got those clients too. It's like, well, I know I've got an employee. His son is 16. Any minute he'll be ready to join us. It's like, that's your hiring plan. All right. So that distance, every day that you can't fill that job, time to hire, nice, easy metric. And you can quantify it by saying, how much did that person produce? You can use average. You could move that one direction or other. I guarantee it's a lot more than what you paid them. Otherwise, you wouldn't pay them. And look at that on a per day cost. $150,000, 360 days a year. Um, or you can think of them as work days, right? 150,000. 250 work days a year ballpark, assuming they work every holiday and never take any time off. You're laying $600 a day out of your productivity.
That's
Every
huge.
day they're not there.
That's
Okay.
huge.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when you think about that, now you have a number to put on your investment in figuring out how to reduce that time, getting it from 60 days to 45, getting it from 60 to, you know, down to 20. It's worth figuring out how to have a line of people who want to come work for you, have a system that allows you to generate applications quickly, screen them quickly, get them started quickly. If you could move that down to 3 weeks, the amount of value that would put in your business is huge. Okay. And that's just pure missing productivity. That's one key number, time to hire. In that time to hire, that 150,000 that they're not doing is actually not the whole piece either.
No, it's not.
And this is where Diane can speak to. When you don't have someone in a role you need, other people have to do that role. So it's not just that you're losing the 150 that they would have produced. You're sucking like a funnel out of your business, normally even more productive labor. Either other technicians stepping into that role and having to work overtime, which means maybe their cost is 50% higher, but also maybe they're not doing as good of a job. Maybe they know you can't fire me because you already lost Jeff, right? Or you've got their manager stepping down to handle their tasks when the manager needs to be handling 7 people's escalations, and instead he's spending half his day doing basic work, or the owner. And so those costs can significantly add up. And that's why when people talk about the cost of turnover, losing a person and having to replace them, just that period right there can show you why those costs are incredibly large. McDonald's estimates that every time they have to replace a fry cook, it costs them 4.5 months of salary.
Wow.
And
And
they have a line.
that's
That's
unskilled labor in
yeah,
there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Just the cost of that position being vacant, other people moving around, schedule screw ups, blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
If McDonald's estimates that, I tell you, a plumber costs a lot more.
You bet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've talked about time to hire. Should I go on to another one, or what do you think about that, Diane? What are some of your pieces on there?
I think, wow, I personally did not stop to think that it was that expensive.
It's very expensive.
It is.
And we're really just putting it together. We're really just starting. That time
Just
the
one
employee
piece
is
of this.
missing is an important part. You know what costs even more? Even if you can replace somebody in 45 days, a month and a half, the next thing, which we call time to productivity,
That's another big chunk of time.
is often double. So think about this. When you bring on a new HVAC tech, maybe they've got experience, maybe they don't, whatever. Hopefully they got, they got their license,
Mhm.
whatever. We're not talking about just fresh off the boat, no idea what's going on. They've been doing HVAC for somebody else.
Mhm.
In your business, how long does it take them to go from I got hired to just as good as the average guy in your shop? Okay.
Got to be at least 2 or 3 months, I would think.
Yeah. 2 or 3 months would be incredibly fast.
Hmm.
So, again, using McDonald's as an example, McDonald's estimates it takes 14 weeks for that same fry cook to produce
Wow.
French fries at the
French
same
fries.
rate and consistency as the average fry cook.
Okay, so then our HVAC guy's like 6 months.
That's right. In fact, SHRM estimates that for non-professional services, your range is 4 to 8 months, depending on the
Okay.
complexity.
Right.
For professional services, if there happens
It's
to be an
higher.
accountant or lawyer, 18 months is
I've
the
always said
average.
at least 12 in my own
Yeah.
office. Yeah,
Yeah.
you
I mean,
lose
think about
money
it.
the first 6 to 8 months. Hopefully by nine, they're catching on enough that they're treading water.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's huge.
To reach that average productivity, and it makes sense the more complex the job is. And that
Mhm.
also goes to you home services businesses, because here's the problem. You know this, in a large shop, right? You've got a guy whose only job is make sure the vans are loaded,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
It's a relatively simple job. You take that work and you put it on your tech and you say, we don't have enough business to have a guy whose only job is to load the vans every day, right? So
Mhm.
now the tech's job at your place is the tech job plus making sure the van is loaded. It's not a big deal. Shouldn't be that hard. But you have made it one thing harder,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
You say, I want to get an inventory system in there. I'm a small business. So look, I don't have a perfect list of every single thing we do. You got to go out there, figure out, really scope it out, think in terms of hours, call me, work with me on I don't have a sales guy. We just have techs who do sales. All these things make your job at a small business more complicated than
Yes.
at a large firm where their only job is to wear the polo and take the photo,
Right. Yes.
right? So it is likely that your time to productivity is longer than at a larger firm. It's
Definitely.
just the
Because you
norm.
wear so many
Yeah,
more hats in a smaller firm or a smaller business.
that's right.
Yes.
And the truth is, you probably don't have much in the way of formalized training. You don't have extra labor to follow them around and
Mhm.
mentor them. I mean, it's just the reality of it. You're looking
Mhm.
for higher class people. So, what that means is your time to productivity, let's assume it's 6 months. Okay. That means on day one, which again, I think I personally think figuring out how to do plumbing is harder than figuring out how to do accounting, but whatever. They're both hard. But let's say it's 6 months. Day one, they come into your office, they sign their paperwork, they don't know where anything is or what to do. They have zero productivity. You make no money on the
Nope.
guy you hired on day one.
No.
6 months in, they're rocking it out. They're at 100% productivity. Everything's going great. You can estimate that linearly. There's some argument that it's actually more exponential, that
Mm-hmm.
4 months in, they're not halfway there,
No.
right? But 5 months in, they're over halfway, and 6 months they're there. Like there's an argument that it's an exponential learning curve, but
Mhm.
let's just make it linear. 3 months in, they're halfway there. 6 months, they're 100%. That means over the course of that entire period, they're 50% productive, right? Just half. That's what we use for
Right.
that 6 months, which means you have another 3 months effectively of zero productivity. That's how you can think about it, right? Takes them 6 months to get to full, halfway at half, right? What you wind up with is that on 6 months of time to productivity, you've lost 3 months of productivity. Okay.
And paid out a salary in the process.
And on top of that, now you're paying for the guy,
Yes.
right? So what happens in many businesses, mine included, we ran into this about 4 years ago. Things are running okay. Got your 13 people. Jack quits. Now you got 12. And you go, okay, everybody's under pressure. We're hurting. We're dying. I got to hire. You bring the new person in, and all it does is cost you more money and takes a few months for that to fill the hole if you get it right. If you mishire, you've wasted the money, you've wasted the additional management and training time, which we're going to get to in just a
Mhm.
second. So again, just in lost productivity, you can estimate another 3 months at $600 a workday on that 100 on the small 150,000 productivity person. Okay, that's another 60 days. You just lost $32,000 in sales just to train him up or in services performed. And you can look at that and go, yeah, that makes sense. If I have a
Absolutely.
plumbing tech and he can't do 10 grand a month in total service, we're not getting anywhere, right?
Right. Yep.
So the numbers, they wind up making sense. That's why you kind of have to be ahead of this stuff. So if you can, we've talked about time to hire, and there's an advantage to shrinking that. Now we've got time to productivity. You can shrink that. You've now put significantly more productivity in your organization.
Mhm.
Okay. The third number I want to bring up with you, and we're going to then wrap around and come back to everything, is turnover. Okay? Turnover is the trigger for both of those things. So if you take, let's just use I don't know, you want to use a 20-person shop, 10-person shop? What do you think is a good size, Diane?
And do a 10-person shop just because that divides evenly.
All
We can
right.
do the math easier.
We got a 10-person shop. That's 1.5 million in revenue, 150,000. Okay. If that 10-person shop turns over 3 people a year, and you think that sounds high, 30%. I don't know a plumbing shop with 10 employees that hadn't lost 3 people.
Right. Yep. Very common.
3 is conservative, but let's say we use 3 people a year. You take those 45 days to hire, just a month and a half. I know some of you listening, it ain't a month and a half. And you take 6 months to get them to full productivity, just the numbers we went through now. You also, when you bring them on, you have to spend time interviewing people, skills testing, doing whatever it is you do to select your people. Then they come on, you got to train them, you got to get all their paperwork filled out. And then the real cost in that 6 month ramp up, their manager, the senior tech, is spending hours every week checking their work, answering their questions, mentoring. But by mentoring, we mean making sure they didn't screw you up too bad, right? They're a new hire. You don't know. On average, SHRM estimates that a manager or trainer or senior person spends 4 hours a week during that productivity ramp up phase. That's 6 months, 4 hours a week, double checking their work, teaching them, answering questions, orientating, etc. Now, that's not necessarily just their direct manager, it's their coworkers, it's your inventory guy, it's learning all those systems. It's completely reasonable that they're going to spend a half a day over the course of that ramp up period working with others that they wouldn't otherwise have to work with.
And if
Okay?
not more.
If not more. If
Right.
not more. So
Yep.
that over 6 months is 148 hours of manager time or trainer time or just another text time. Okay. What's an average comp for someone in a role like this, you think, Diane? In thinking about their hourly wage, their benefits, PTO, taxes, 60,000, 70,000 a
Yeah,
year.
at least 60 to 70 by the time you wrap all the other stuff into it.
That's right. And keep in mind, something we talk about with our clients a lot. PTO, that's missed productivity days. PTO
Yes.
costs you more than their
Yep.
salary. Not in
Mhm.
aggregate, but for every day that they work, you want them to work. That's why you pay them. They
Yep.
make you money when they're there. When they're not there, you're losing out on the production. PTO is the most expensive benefit, kind of buck for buck. Hits you hard. Anyway, we'll use 70,000. Okay. If you were to put that together on this $1.5 million company, three people, 45 days to hire, and a 6 month ramp up period, right?
I'm afraid of what this number is going to be, Rami.
Yeah. So lost during vacancy, 41,600 bucks. Okay.
Okay.
That's the 45 days, the month and a half for
Okay.
three people. Okay. So what is that? It's 4.5 months of the year for one person. Comes out to about a third
Hmm.
of your 150. This all makes sense. 41,000. Ramp up cost, time to productivity,
Hmm.
another 70,000.
My goodness.
Okay. Actually, I did 5 months. Just scrolled down and changed it. Let me move that back to 6. Sorry. Ramp up costs, $83,219. So that's
So
41
like a
plus 83.
120.
You put them together, 124. So
Okay.
that's your direct missing productivity costs just from three people turning over in a year, assuming they're of average productivity. And it's not going to be your average guys that you lose.
No.
That's your productivity loss. But then you have your costs. You have that 140 hours of manager time. You have the time you spent recruiting, advertising, interviewing. And then you have the additional burdens, the documentation errors, the rework, the client dissatisfaction, the turnover, the cascading effects of during that time, other people stepping in to do the job. That's the biggest number, and it's hard to
That is.
define. But if you were to put those together, the way we have a calculator that kind of pulls these numbers together, and we put those direct costs at another $90,000, which again, I
Oh
think
my
is very
goodness.
conservative.
Yeah.
If you think, what's the cost of having 4.5 months of missing time and almost 12 months of for one, basically losing one employee for the year during
Pretty
productivity
much. You're right.
time,
Yep.
and managers having to step in, coworkers having to train, take overtime, another 100 grand is very reasonable. So that brings your
Wow.
total impact to 216 grand. I know
Say
it's a
that
lot of math
again.
for those listening. 216 grand.
Oh my
So on a
goodness.
$1.5 million business, hitting these basic benchmarks, 45 days, three turnovers, and then 6 months to get them up a number. $216,000 in costs. Now, does that pass the smell test? Well, you tell me this, Diane. If you had a 10-person HVAC shop and they had no turnover, or if someone did leave the next day, they had someone start, and that person was 100% productive from day one, do you think instead of doing 1.5 million, they could do 1.7 million? Yeah,
Yes. Yep.
yeah, easily.
Yep.
These numbers are conservative
Yeah.
in terms of the missing profit or your increased costs in labor. Either way, that 200 grand is literal money that you could have as profit. So when you're looking at your business and you think, God, this guy over here does 2 million in business. Somehow he only spends 800,000 in labor, makes a bunch of money. I do 2 million in business. I spend 1.8 million in labor and I feel like I run around all day. What's happening? That lever, that labor spend lever, there's a lot of things you can do to affect those three primary metrics, time to hire, time to productivity, and turnover. You need to affect them because that's the measures of how much return you're getting out of your labor. And it's really easy to see when you think about productivity rather than salary. And
Right.
the easy way to
Right.
know is if you lost all of your employees, you would have no salary costs, but you'd
So
also have
sales
no
would be,
revenue.
yeah, it would be
Right?
whatever you could do yourself.
So so it's not about the cost, it's about the return, it's about the
Yes. Yeah.
productivity.
Return on payroll. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a very real KPI to be watching.
Yeah. So those are some of my kind of key things to think about. If you're looking at your business and you're starting to scale up and you're starting to grow, or maybe you already are, a lot of times people ignore this stuff. They figure out their place in the market. They got the business coming in and they're constantly like, man, why can't I keep good people? And my main constraint is I don't have enough techs. Yeah, yeah,
Yep,
it is.
it
Go make
is.
it so that you lower your turnover rate, lower your time to hire, lower your time to productivity, right? Make all these numbers tighter. And you'll find that you're able to handle so much more business with consistency and high customer satisfaction. So it'll make you a lot of money. Uh,
Like
yeah,
I hear all the time, as I'm working with, coaching with these kind of businesses that I'm back in the truck again. I never,
yep.
I don't want to, I can't get done whatever, we're working on in our coaching program with them. I can't get that done because I spent my whole last week back in the truck again because so and so didn't show up or, whatever the emergency was. And that just kills them. But it's not a number that sits on your P&L. It's not
That's
a
right.
number they can trace through and say, oh, okay, here's how much I lost. And to get that concept through business owners, it's so hard to measure that and come up with that. What is that real number that you jumped back in a truck instead of staying in the leadership position in your company and moving this company forward? You had to jump back in a truck.
And
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 happens all
look,
the
I'm a
time.
small business owner. All right.
Yep.
I got 38 employees now, but I've been there. It was my wife and my mom when I started. All right. When I had 6 employees and someone didn't show up, guess what? That meant I was doing the work. It's part of life.
Yes.
It's part of it. I'm not saying you don't get in the truck. I'm saying you make it so your people show up,
Right.
or
Yep.
so that
How do
when
you
they don't
fix
show
that
up, you
problem?
can rapidly replace them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key. It can't be, you know, you're never going to get in a situation where you, as the business owner, the buck doesn't stop with you and you just go, someone else will,
Take care
it's
of
like,
that.
no,
Yeah.
it's your
No.
job. But you got to put in place the processes so that you can rapidly correct those behaviors,
Mhm.
get people consistently there, lower your turnover, make it so people want to be there. We call it attracting and retaining top talent. That's the HR words of that, right? But you got to make it so that people want to come work for you. They're lined up at the door. And once they come there, they maintain your behavioral and competency based skills that they actually do what they're supposed to do. And that means you also got to be able to fire people because some people just only respect being able to knock people out. That's part of life. So those pieces, we call that whole section of work from figuring out what people should do, trying to get them to want to come work for you, recruiting, hiring, getting them in place, defining their performance, paying them appropriately, making sure we're not going to go to jail for, compliance issues, and terminating quickly when needed. Time to fire is actually one of the metrics we
Oh,
track.
that's
It's a little bit
huge.
harder to
Time to fire. You
explain,
bet.
but we actually have a thing in our system where we're looking at from the moment the manager thinks, I don't think this is going to work, to that person being out the door, how long is that taking? We want that number as short as possible.
And I say 9 times out of 10, we hold on way too long.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm guilty of it too. I
Oh,
mean, it's
yeah,
so hard.
it
It's so
is.
hard, but that's again why systems and processes can really help, right?
Mhm.
So um anyway, that's some of the stuff that we do. And Diane, it's up to you on kind of where you want to go from here. We can dive more into numbers. We can talk about some of the easiest things that people can do to maybe work on those KPIs, or we can say reach us out to us at People Processes if you want to learn more, whatever you want to do.
Let's talk a little bit about what are some of the changes or the systems that they can put in place to bring those KPIs into a, let me say, more respectable number. Because I'm guilty, you're guilty. We've all held on to somebody too long. We've all taken too long to hire when somebody leaves.
Hmm.
We've all had to step back in the trenches and do the work. I mean, that's a
Part of
business
it.
owner. So how
Yeah.
can we make those numbers better and not lose quite so much? We know we're going to lose money if we lose a person. That's just a given. But how
Yeah.
can we pull that in and not lose as 216,000? How can we only lose half of that maybe?
Yeah. Well, so here's some of the ways we rate the maturity of um, a business in these places. Let's think about the simplest one to affect, in my opinion, which is time to hire. Okay, that's a
Okay.
nice simple one.
Hmm.
Jack leaves Friday. How long till we got to replace for Jack? Most small businesses are in we call it ad hoc maturity. Roles are filled primarily manually through word of mouth. They have no standardized job ads. They don't have interview scoring or consistent processes in order to figure out who they should hire. They have little to no use of any sort of specialized platform or recruiting network. Their decision making is delayed, and then the offers, once they make the decision, are relatively slow. And because of that, time to hire is slow or very uncertain. One of the key bottlenecks is that the recruiting is normally done by the owner or other high-level executives or managers. And that means that it's at the whims or the bottleneck of their schedule, right? They
Right.
can't
Yep.
spend 3 days scheduling 200 interviews for 15 minutes back to back. Get this done. They can't do that. They got a business to run.
They got a business to
Okay.
run, yes.
So that's on kind of the low end. If you're in that position, uh, there's a couple of concepts I want you to think about. One is making sure that every role in your business has a job description and a job advertisement, and they are different things.
They are, definitely.
Just to start with, one's an ad. It's supposed to motivate action. It's supposed to get people to want to apply. If your job ad is a job description, it's not doing its job. And I want you to think about it as an ad, just like you do to get people to ring the phone to call for HVAC service. Is it getting their attention? Is it generating interest? Is it pushing them to take action? Right? AIDA. Glengarry Glen Ross. Okay. So you want to put together an advertisement for each role. And just like anything, these are things that can be optimized and made better by good copywriters and ad guys and whatever. Start with your description, turn it into an advertisement. It can be basic. Use ChatGPT. I don't care. Keep a list so that when someone leaves or you think you need to hire, you've got the ad ready to go. Okay. Then you want to think about your recruitment sources. At a bare minimum, drop it on Indeed. It's free, works great, going to get you somewhere. It would behoove you put an hour a month on your calendar to work on your recruiting network. Your business is based very much on your ability to get good talent. So 1 hour a month on your calendar, reach out to the local trade schools, reach out to job placement programs, reach out to temp staffing companies, whatever, wherever people go to look for work, and let them know that you're an employer in the area you're looking to hire. And when you have an advertisement, you're going to send it to them too. It's that simple.
Okay.
Okay. You don't have to do a lot, but now you've got an ad and you got places to put it. If you can then make your interview process more structured, automated, there are lots of tools for that. There are HR systems. Again, you're shrinking that time so that you're not going back and forth on when to hire. Maybe you're spending less time on screening and more time on skills testing. There's lots of tweaks to be made. On our system, literally the resumes all come in from a bunch of different sources into one place. You say, I like this resume. It sends them a pre-written email. I like your resume. Here's why. Click here to submit a video or schedule your screening interview or whatever the next step is, all those kind of pieces. And you can automate all that so it's very fast. You also, if you automate and make plans and processes for all that, it means it can be done by lower skilled labor, right? Doesn't have to be you anymore. You've written down what to do, where it goes, we call it a hiring guide, how to evaluate a resume, how to get a screening done. The screening, the 10-minute phone call. Can they spell their own name? Why did you leave your prior job? Oh, because you killed somebody? Okay, that sounds great. We'll call you later, right? Like you got to have basic screening. You can move that down your hierarchy in your business. Get your assistant to do it, get your secretary, get your HR company. They would do a pretty dang good job, right? All of these are skills. And have them do that screening. Now you've gotten rid of 60% of the time sink and you've got consistency in the process. So those are just some very basic examples. Okay. Every piece of this you can do that with. When you hire somebody, your onboarding period, you want to think about the job description, the interview process, And now the onboarding. What information can you get to them? How quickly? How compelling? How good? And put a little bit of time in making that process faster and better. Incorporate mentorship, training, online training, in-person training, whatever. All those pieces are part of a much broader process. And putting a little bit of time, or a company like ours, on those will reduce that time to productivity significantly, especially if, as most people are, this is something they turn and look at a long time into their business, right?
Right.
You're the majority of companies wait way too long. They're bleeding money out because they don't look at this until they hit 20 people and something goes disastrously wrong. Okay. My average client comes to me with 33 employees. It's way too late. I bring on 7 and 3 and 10 person companies all the time because they figured out, oh, I've got the business coming in. I'm just not sure how to get my people up to that. And the difference in those businesses than the ones who struggle along until they're at 30, the pain, right? The entrenched
Yes.
problems are so different. Um, the larger companies, the 70, 80, 90s, they have systems in place and we're taking over because we do it better. Small companies, it's we're taking over because you got nothing. I love your wife.
Well,
She's
and then
great.
too,
She shouldn't be doing
as
the HR. Anyway, go ahead.
as an owner, we don't do this on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And so when you have to stop and deal with it, it's like, oh no, what did we do last time? Has anybody got the old job description available?
Yeah.
And you start digging in like that. And I hear these conversations all the time. So it's not something that comes quick and easy, and they haven't built a system around it, and it's clunky, and it maybe worked on this instance, but it didn't work on that one, and it's not efficient. It's not
Yeah.
effective, and yeah,
Just
we
like
might get
anything.
somebody hired, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, it's just like anything, right? You can YouTube it and DIY it, and you'll just like, when you guys go out to replace a HVAC unit, and then you got the homeowner standing there saying, "Yeah, I thought that's what you do." Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah, I saw that on a YouTube video. I just didn't want to do it, but HR is a skill too.
yes,
Just like landscaping, half the people in it are below average. Okay, it's part of life, but a lot of times it's better to hire a professional, is all I'm saying. But
right,
if you can't
yes,
afford to hire a pro and you're going to DIY it, make sure you're taking a look at these core functions: that time to hire, time to productivity, and affecting your turnover rate. And affecting your turnover rate is another one where a lot of people haven't put any real effort into the maturity on that, right? Maybe employees leave frequently, you don't know why. There's no structured feedback loops. Culture is not reinforced, is not consistent. Compensation and benefits are whatever you Googled, right? Leadership is unsure why turnover is happening. When someone leaves, they go, good riddance. I hate that guy anyway. And they move on with their day, right? They're not looking at it as a process, like where did we go wrong in the advertising, the recruiting, the onboarding, the management, that maybe the answer is we never should have hired that guy. But if so, that's a process problem too.
right,
If you're in that world of, just complete unknown, you're in a fully, we call it reactive space in terms of turnover. There's so much you can do to rapidly affect that number. And the return is huge. If you can go from 5 people a year quitting or being fired to 3, that's a huge return.
that's
That's
huge,
hundreds of thousands of dollars in your pocket.
and that's plugging a huge profit leak,
Right. Right.
right? Wow. Well, I'm hoping that everybody listening is sitting there thinking, ooh, yeah, I've stepped in that cow pie and I've stepped in this one, and maybe we could do it differently going forward. So before we wrap up, Rami, I'm going to go for our magical question that we ask at the end of every podcast. What's a hidden or unique profit leak that you see business owners making? And we can throw it right in this process of the hiring and retaining process. What's a
I think
hidden
we just
leak?
covered a ton of them, but
We did.
another one that I think that people, maybe for some of your more established listeners, that blows me away is benefits communication. So real simple one. We're going back to that turnover idea.
Hmm.
Blue collar has good benefits as a rule. Y'all are in a very competitive space, right? So most of your competitors have good health insurance, dental, vision, life insurance, disability, a retirement plan. If you don't have those things, you should. Okay. But the ones who have it, I want you to take a minute about how much money you spend on those dang plans. And then how well do your employees appreciate and understand them? And I think you will
Ooh,
find the answer is like dog crap. Like they don't understand them, they don't know how to use them, they don't know why it costs so much, they don't know anything, and they don't appreciate them. They'll go take a job for a 25-cent an hour raise,
right,
not realizing that you're putting 5% of their salary in their 401k.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Benefits communication is an easy profit leak to find. You're spending a lot of money, and if you're going to spend $10,000 a month on your insurance, why don't you spend $100 on color freaking copies of what the benefits do? Like it blows me away. The number of blue collar groups, this is specifically really for blue collar work that I've walked into, their benefits are on par with FedEx. They are, union shop, great freaking benefits. And the people working there think that they're crap.
Because they don't understand.
They don't understand them.
But
And
I
how
think,
are they communicated? They're
right.
handed a stack of 45 black and white, off-center, crunchy papers to fill out to enroll, you know, and they get a copy of the Anthem brochure.
Right. Yeah. And these same shops are spending money on training their team on sales and installs and customer service and all these other things, but forgetting that we need to spend a little bit over on this other side.
Yeah, and it's not even, how do you use it? What does it do? Why is it good? How's it going to affect your family? What do you
Right.
need to do when things go wrong? It's very basic. Do it in your annual enrollment. Make sure your broker's doing a good job.
Right.
Make your broker pay for it if they won't. Like,
Right.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of ways to make this happen, but I'm telling you, probably 90% of blue collar businesses we walk into, one of the first easy pickups that has an absolute effect is benefits communication. Like, their people go, oh, my employer actually does something really nice for us. They can have that thought 3 times a year, like you're winning. Because most of the
You
time
are.
they don't ever have that thought. You are their employer, right? They don't
Right.
love you out of the kindness of their heart. They want a paycheck. That's part of life. It's just like, you're their boss. If you can make
Right.
them think happy about you every quarter, you're doing great.
You are doing great. Right.
Yeah.
Well, Rami, thank you for sharing that one. That is a hidden leak that I don't know that I would have even thought to bring up. So thank you. That's why I
It's my
like this
pleasure.
segment of our show each time.
Thank you so
So,
much for having us.
yeah, Rami, how can people reach out? Because by now they're probably thinking, I got to get to Rami. How am I going to do that? Do you want to
Well,
share
look,
some information?
of course, you talk to Diane and she will help you figure this stuff out and help you figure out if you need a company like ours. I would love to work with you. Of course, you can reach us at peopleprocesses.com. You can email me at Rami@peopleprocesses.com. Good luck spelling it. We're on YouTube at People Processes, have about 6,000 subscribers and spend a lot of time there. My call to action to you would be go to peopleprocesses.com and we have a section on blue collar work or home services work. You can learn about what we do, how we help, book a time with me. Uh, I have 38 employees. I have no salespeople. It's just me. So that's my people process that I probably need to work on. But I've been pretty happy getting to know all my clients over the years. So
Right. Oh,
just
yeah.
book a 30-minute meeting with me and we'll discuss anything you'd like. It doesn't have to be a sales meeting. We can dive into onboarding. Just tell them when you book, say, I'm from Diane's show, and I'll make sure to spend the time with you and we can work into anything that you'd like to figure out.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Rami. That's a very generous offer for everybody. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's my pleasure.
And listeners, I'm hoping that you saw some value in today's episode. I know I did because I have been treading the water of I lost a person a year ago. And hopefully we're going to get that person replaced here pretty soon. So as Rami's throwing out those big numbers, I'm going, mine's probably even higher because this was a fairly high level professional that I lost. So now that he's got me scared, we got to get this thing fixed. So I'm hoping you found value just like I did and that you will share this episode out with your friends, with your associates, with people that you know could benefit from this same topic. Once again, please like and subscribe to us. Our channels are growing, and we thank you for that. It's very encouraging each month when we get to see the statistics of how we're doing with this particular podcast. So thank you. And if you would like help identifying profit leaks and building out your pricing and your service structure, if you want profitable growth in your business, not just growth in particular, but profitable growth, reach out to us. Our coaching programs are there for you. And in our programs, we help you find these profit leaks that are leaking out of your company and help you not only identify them, but plug them and put that money back in your bottom line. We want you to be able to take your profits first. We want you to have a great team that you love and they love you, and we want you to enjoy your business. So, with that, I'm going to say thank you for joining us and have a great rest of your day. Signing out for Rhamy and for Diane. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.